let us start with the presentation. I first introduce myself, and I come with a background in research, first as early career researcher, and then I was assistant professor for 10 years in Italy. After that, I moved out of academia. It was a personal decision, and I had a lot of management experience and also startup experience. Most recently, I've been working at the technology transfer office here at the University of Vienna, with particular focus on academic entrepreneurship, and I will say more later about that. And I'm also I have also startup experience as a startup founder, and I am a mentor of the EAC, and which is the European Innovation Council, and EIT, which is the European Institute for Innovation and Technology. And Ima?
No, yes, a little bit about my background. I think that some of the images are not here. Yeah, now it's everything. So I'm a chemical engineer by training, and I did my PhD studies in chemistry at the University of Granada in Spain and Columbia University in New York. And during my studies, I also had the chance to work with the Danish biotech company Novozymes. Then I did my postdoc in ISTA here in Austria. And 6 years ago, I joined the research services of the University of Vienna. I work here as technology transfer manager, and to perform this job, I also receive some trainings and education, and I'm registered technology transfer professional and certified project manager. So Marco and I are part of the Technology Transfer Office, and we are a sub-team of the Knowledge Exchange and National Funding Team. This big team is led by Tobias Recklin, and the deputy head is Barbara Leitner. So we are a small office. We are 4 technology transfer managers: Angela Sandor, Tamara Pinterich, Rafaela Freider, and myself. We have our expert in entrepreneurship, Marco Lucia, and we also have our legal expert in the team, Sofia Miklush. We have prepared presentation about our role, what we do at the university, and our tasks. So as Marco already said, please feel free to interrupt us anytime. So what we do, in essence, is to evaluate new technologies, new inventions developed at the university, with the end goal to identify IP that can be commercialized. Then we try to evaluate whether and how this IP can be protected, and in the end, we try to commercialize it. We are going to talk now about all the activities involved in these 3 main pillars, but we want to highlight the fact that all these activities are the result of close collaboration between us and the researchers. We provide them with all our support, but, or more than a but and, is we need their commitment. We need their support, we need their input, and we need them to work with us. So the first step, as I mentioned before, is the IP identification. So usually when a researcher at our university develops a new technology, a new invention, they have to report it to us, to the Technology Transfer Office, without any delay. And they do it without a form that we have it on our website, which is the Invention Disclosure Form, IDF. And this is a document that covers the main aspects of the technology and also all the legal framework in which the technology was developed. Then we have 3 months to evaluate the technology and to advise the rectorate whether the university should claim or not this new invention. As part of this evaluation, we assess the technology itself, if any potential application, uses, any potential market where it can be employed, but also we evaluate all the legal framework in which the the technology was developed, if it was developed in cooperation with any other institution or with a company, if it received any funding, if all the inventors are employed by the university, and so on, any contracts related to this technology, to know if the university is in a position to claim ownership to that technology, and also to know if the university has any obligation towards the funding agency or any cooperation partner. So as I mentioned, we evaluate the technology. As part of it, we perform the patent check, market analysis, we evaluate the legal framework or try to find out any funding requirements. So as part of this process, sometimes we ask external parties to support us, like patent attorneys or the patent office or any consultant company. So we manage all the process and the communication among these parties and the researchers, and the university covers all the costs. Everything clear so far? I hope so. Then we evaluate whether we should protect that technology. And usually that's the case of a patent application. So we need the researchers to provide us with information, to answer our questions or the questions from the patent attorney, which is in charge of drafting the patent, to provide feedback on the patent drafts. But patenting is a very expensive process. So it's very important for us to know that we have the support of the researchers, that the researchers are going to keep working on this technology, that they will support us in when we attempt any commercialization efforts. And so it's very beneficial for us to have a letter of intent for a company interested in having a license in the future to this technology, or in the event that the researcher wants to create a spin-off, to agree with them a roadmap for the spin-off creation. So, as I said, we can protect technologies with patents, but we also protect technologies with confidentiality agreements. So in the case that we don't have a patent, but the researchers want to discuss their research results with any other company or with any other research institution. So we manage and we arrange these agreements. We also arrange material or data transfer agreements in the event that the researchers want to send compounds, for instance, to other institutions or companies, or the other way around. They wish to receive some materials for the research. All this process has to be regulated with an agreement, and we also take care of interinstitutional agreements. And then we try to, depending on the specific technology, we identify the best valorization strategy for a given technology. So that could be licensing the technology to a company. And to achieve this goal, we promote technologies through different channels. We upload a summary of the technology on our website. We also use a marketing platform like Impact is one marketing platform that the technology has a subscription to. We also attend partnering events where companies looking for technologies talk to us. And we also directly contact companies that might be interested in a given technology. Another option could be to further develop the technology in cooperation with a company. And to reach this goal, we support the researchers in the application for funding. There are in Austria several funding for university and industry collaboration. Or the final option could be, one of the most important options actually is the creation of a spin-off company based on that technology. Marco can elaborate a bit more on this.
Yes, exactly. And this is where I come into the picture, right? So, of course, again, as Emma said, there's always this continuous interaction between us and the inventors. And of course, depending on their level of engagement and career, let's say the contribution that they can give to a spin-off is different. Okay, so they, depending on the inventors, they will decide whether to, let's say, leave academia for good and be engaged 100% of the time on the spin-off, or actually maybe if they are already professors, usually they decide to maybe be advisor, having just some stakes in the company and have an advisory role, and rather than having a preeminent role. And then what we provide them with is training. If they have no knowledge about business, for example, we give them some courses. We have different type of courses, both long and short, with coaching or mentoring, depending on what their needs are. Of course, as also Emma mentioned earlier, there will be support for market analysis and advice on funding, where funding is both private and public funding. And also we put them in touch with the right people in our network, so that starting up is easier. It's never easy, but at least it's easier with that support. And as for entrepreneurship, we have 4 different lines of action. And those lines of action are mostly meant to increase the awareness and interest of the university community into starting up a new company, and also providing training courses. So our flagship are the innovation labs, where we have some programs where participants develop their entrepreneurial ideas, okay, so that they get both business and scientific training. So for example, we are going to start soon with the digital innovation lab. So they will get, of course, all the main element of running a digital business, but also because we have a computer science faculty, a research network on data science, we will get some of our professors to bring in content that is relevant for most digital businesses. Then we will help them develop these ideas. And then the training program is overall 2 months long. And then after these 2 months, participants will pitch their business ideas. And we provide kind of pre-seed grants to the most promising ideas, okay? And of course, any IP developed during this program belongs to University of Vienna, or partly belongs to the University of Vienna, depending on the type of arrangement. There's no need to go into details right now about that. As I mentioned, very important for us are the spin-offs. So there are all startups which innovation is based on intellectual property belonging to the University of Vienna. Okay, and to the spin-offs, again, we provide coaching. We put them in touch with investors as soon as, let's say, they are mature enough to raise some funds. We help them with market research and support to get public funding, as I mentioned earlier. Then there is more training and more coaching. Okay, so we have like some ad hoc trainings for some doctoral schools. For example, every year we together with Emma we have we give a course to chemistry students, doctoral students, sorry, and also we organize 2-day master classes on entrepreneurship that are open to all the disciplines. And finally, we try to create this entrepreneurial, or foster this entrepreneurial culture. So we organize events around entrepreneurship, we organize informal meetings, and we try to foster the interaction with the local innovation community, but also among the people within our spin-offs program, so that also they are not like siloed and they are just doing the things by themselves, but they are part of the community where they can also help each other, like with a peer-to-peer, let's say, support. And basically, we ask researchers to contact the technology transfer office whenever they have any of these needs. So first of all, if they have a new technology, the first thing they should do is contact us. Because if they disclose their invention publicly to other people, then there's no possibility to patent. Then in case they need some confidential or non-disclosure agreement, we help them with the wording, and basically we have some templates, and we help them to go through all the it's a procedure. And same thing if they need to send or receive some material from third parties or to third parties, right? Or if they want to collaborate, because there are always issues related to intellectual property, it's always good to get in touch with us. And of course, we are very happy also to provide them with help on proposals for funding. And if they have any questions, they are always welcome to contact us. So I would say that that's it. These are our contacts. So if also any of you would have some questions after today's session, feel free to contact us. And I would also like to thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much. This was a brief input from our colleagues. So I believe we are opening the floor to questions, right? And I'm encouraging all of you to go ahead with questions, ideas, your doubts that you have, or maybe some ideas on tech transfer of your own research. So this is a very good opportunity to ask the unknown.
So the question is, how you on the first slide you said that when researchers find something new, they should immediately contact your office. But the question is how these researchers will recognize that they have something which is actually can be commercialized or can be patented. How this is in the most cases when we find something new, I will go for publishing. So I will publish this result.
Yeah, and that's something that happens in some cases that they just publish it. But of course, once it's published, it's not possible to protect it with a patent application. Well, we try to increase awareness about this. So then when the researchers find out that they develop something that can be commercialized or developed into a product or a kit, or they usually contact us. So, but yes, it's something that we try to increase awareness, especially also with these trainings that we provide for PhD students and postdocs, because they will be the PIs of the future. So they are aware of this, that they have to contact us, and also about all the confidentiality issues, that they should not disclose anything, not only a scientific publication, but also any presentation at a conference or any kind of discussion with external researchers that don't belong to the university, because that could jeopardize any opportunity to file a patent application. But usually they know when to contact us.
Yeah, because as a researcher, we will always go to the pub to publish some results, to publish some paper, to present it at conference. So you provide them at the beginning of PhD or post-PhD, you provide them some training to how to deal with these results, to check first with you whether this is potential for commercialization or they could go for publication. So
usually they know, and also in some cases they contact us because they would like to create a spin-off to commercialize that technology. So of course at that time they also know that they should keep everything confidential, so we work with them on the patent, and once we file they know that they can publish. But yeah, they usually come to us.
Also, if I may add, so as you know, we both used to be researchers, right? And at least in my case, I always had in mind this kind of myth about the fact that if you are going to patent, you cannot publish for a few years, right? Which is not true. Actually, if you delay any publication, is only for a few months, okay? And it is a very important point that people usually do not know. And sometimes they know the fake, it's the information about having to wait many years, right? And of course, while I understand very well a researcher, mostly if we are talking about a PhD candidate who doesn't want to wait like 3 years to publish the results, right? But a few months actually doesn't make much of a difference, but at least allows you to protect your own invention. Okay, so this is one first point that I wanted to make. Second point is that sometimes you cannot know if your invention is really that novel that actually a patent can be granted. Okay, but it's not the inventor role to decide that. It's mostly our role. So if you are working in the lab on something and you know that those results have not been published yet, or there are different results or different applications than the usual, the first thing I would do is to contact the technology transfer office. Let's say maybe it will never be let's say innovative enough as to be granted a patent, but it's always better to first try and learn that it's not novel rather than not to try and then not be able to patent.
So, and you provide them the whole everything to market. You check whether this can be patent or whether this can be commercialized, and provide them also market analysis. So this your office do all and this legal issue. So researcher just give you research results, and then you have the whole support for this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what we do. We use databases, and also there is a service from the Austrian Patent Office that they check this patentability, if there are any patents already covering the core invention. So that's something that we check, right, with the Austrian Patent Office, but also we looking for information in databases, so if it's possible to, if it's novel, and if it's possible to file a patent application. And we also look for the market opportunities. We evaluate and perform a market analysis, and to that we have subscription to some databases, because otherwise it's very difficult to find out all this information. But as I said, we need the researchers to work with us. We do all these things, but we need their support, because there are answers that only they can reply, that they can answer, because they are the experts about the technology. And especially when we try to commercialize technologies, we have to arrange meetings with companies, and we really need their input for these meetings, because the companies usually have very specific questions about the technology, applications, uses, so on. So we really need their input.
And what about intellectual property rights? So university keeps some percent and the researchers keep some percent of this intellectual property. Is this defined?
So yeah, no, the university is the owner of all the IP, because the technology has been developed at the university. So that's something that we check, right, when they send us the invention disclosure form. So if it was developed by employees of the University of Vienna, then the technology belongs, the IP belongs to the University of Vienna. The researchers will be always acknowledged as inventors in the patent application. And if the university receive any remuneration linked to the commercialization of the technology, of course, they will receive inventor remuneration. They will receive some kind of economic compensation. But the owner is the University of Vienna. Unless we are talking, for instance, about students without an employment contract with the university, in that case, they are the owners of the IP, of their share.
even if it's developed at the University of Vienna during the PhD studies, if they are not employed, then it's their IP, right?
Usually PhD students have an employment contract with the university. So in that case, also university is the owner. I meant master students, for instance, and in some cases they don't have an employment contract, so they are the owners of that share of the IP. And then if we want to file a patent application, usually they transfer the IP rights to the university, because otherwise they will need to cover their share of cost from their private money, and that of course is not so good for them.
Of course. Okay, thank you. So let someone else to ask question, actually.
Maybe I can now comment and ask about that student and the research work and everything. If they apply for if they fill invention disclosure without their mentor or some other colleagues who were also included in that research, they can complain on that disclosure and they can ask for their rights. So in that case, I think that PhD student is not he's not free to keep all IP from the research. I suppose that everyone who also participate in that research can complain in that case.
Yeah, so in the document that we asked them to fill in all the information, there is a section where they have to indicate who are the inventors, and all of them have to sign. So we have to rely, of course, on the information that they provide us, but this document already states who is an inventor, and since all of them has to sign it, that all of them agree to all the information that is provided in the document. So we also have to distinguish between being an inventor and being a contributor. For example, in a scientific publication, there are several authors, right? But not all of them made a conceptual contribution. Inventors are those who made a conceptual contribution. Maybe there are other scientists working in the lab that they perform some experiments, but they were told what to do, and others evaluated the results and looked for an interpretation and got conclusions, So we have to distinguish between,
That is very important to know.
I have a question for you. Please take into account that we are starting from scratch. So there is nothing at the faculty whatsoever. In the ideal setting, and it's important for us to get it from you, who would you ideally choose to start the process? Who would be the people involved? Who should we hire, to speak very plainly about that? Should it be a researcher? Should it be somebody from a non-academic sector with the experience in industry? And how would you advise us to go about? Should it be somebody from the legal background, already an IP background? We can now let the imagination run wild. So we are thinking about ideal prospects. So could you please just share your views? Me thinking from the terms of a project office trying to set up another one, which could be technology transfer office. Yeah, thanks.
May I use that?
Yeah, sure.
So I think ideally would be someone with a research background, because we need to understand the technology. So of course, maybe there are details that are more difficult to understand, but to get the whole picture and to understand the technology itself and also some potential applications. It's important also to have some knowledge in IP. So I don't know if it's possible to have legal background and the scientific background simultaneously, but at least some experience of being involved in, I don't know, in any patent or any contract with companies. So this person is aware about IP issues, but that's the case. I don't know if you know, but there is this registered technology transfer professional certificate. This is a certificate that you get after several years working in technology transfer, also after receiving some trainings, participating in some courses and conferences. But I think it's a job that you learn by doing. Of course, it's important to learn about IP implications, about patent law, all these things. But it's a job that you learn by doing. Yeah, and it's important. So if you have a team with more than one person, so one person more experienced in the research, with a research background, and someone with a legal background, because when it comes to review agreements, it's important to know the law, the legal wording, and so on. So every time that we have some templates, but every time that we have to review agreements, it could be an NDA, MTA, or any license agreement, we review it, the technology transfer office and the legal team, because we have to see it from both perspectives, right? From the legal one, and also we have to consider any IP issues.
Maybe I just would add a couple of words to that. Of course, if you start a process from scratch, it's very difficult, right? And also it's not easy to distinguish between, a kind of wish list and the real thing that you need. In my opinion, the main ingredients that you need in a candidate who's starting from scratch a technology transfer office, let's say at a university, first of all, would be to understand the research process. That's why having a PhD is important there, because even if, of course, I don't know how many different faculties you have, but if you get a graduate in physics, they wouldn't understand the technology in chemistry or vice versa, but at least they would understand the process, which is very important. And of course, as soon as the technology transfer office then grows, you can afford to have the different experts in the different faculties, right? But from the very beginning, the most important thing is understanding the process. Secondly, is also a bit of motivation, okay? Because starting anything from scratch means that it's at least double the work, right? Because there are no processes in place, so you have to do it like trial and error. Of course, maybe being in contact with other universities might help, but then every single university is different at some point, so you need to develop your own processes there, and then also having good contacts or good understanding of the local regulations, because everything around intellectual property is first done according to local regulations. So, for example, most of EU countries, for example, the university owns the invention, okay? The IP, sorry. But it's not always like that. So, for example, in Sweden and in Italy is the professor, right, or the inventor who owns the IP. So I don't know how that would be in Serbia, for example. And of course, this makes a difference also in the processes then that you have to follow. Okay, so the ideal candidate should know all these things. And of course, if the ideal candidate comes from the industry, he or she might have some knowledge, mostly if he or she has worked in the technology transfer in the industry, then they have a good knowledge of those things, and then that would be ideal.
Thank you. So we need a superhero, Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man in one.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you so much. I get it. Alexandra has a question. Alexandra, go ahead, please.
For how long you have a transfer technology office in the University of Vienna? I wanted to ask.
Could you please?
For how long you have the office in the University of Vienna? It's not, but is it 5 years, 10 years, or 10 years around?
Yeah, the research services was involved in IP matters, patents, agreements, so on since 18 years ago. But the technology transfer office as an unit started, I think it was 2013. I think, I'm not sure though.
Yeah. Okay. It's just, and you think it's better if it is in the university level, not in faculty level?
Yeah, we provide services to all the faculties and research centers at the university. The University of Vienna has 7,000 researchers, 7,000 academics, and 15 faculties, 5 research centers. So as I said at the beginning, we are in a small office. We're considering the size of this university. Yeah, we are small, but we provide services to all these faculties. So we are not in the main building of the university, but we are in an office building. And we are part of the research services.
Yeah, and how often you have patents and requests from the natural science, from the people who are doing chemistry, physics, or so?
Well, so I could tell you that every year we receive around 25, 30 new inventions. That includes life science, physics, and chemistry.
Okay. And do you provide support for the projects? For example, transfer technology projects, where also we have to provide all the market analysis and everything in advance.
In advance?
When we apply for the technology transfer project, we have to give the market analysis and also to predict how much time we will need from the proof of concept to the patent. Do you provide the support for this kind of projects to your researchers?
We provide the support that we mentioned at the beginning. We evaluate the technology, market analysis, patentability check, and then proof of concept. We provide the support for the applications. So the researchers can apply for some proof of concept funding. So we provide support, but we don't have any, at the moment, we don't have any internal proof of concept.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Professor Veskovic, I believe it's you. I'm not sure. The floor is yours.
Good day. Actually, I'm Branislav, and I'm Miroslav's son.
Okay. Hi, Branislav. Sorry for the confusion.
It's no problem, but we're both listening, so it's okay.
Right,
I wanted to ask a question about the innovation labs and the amount of pre-seed funding that your TTO offers the inventors, as you say. And do they need to have some kind of functioning prototype, kind of MVP for them to receive the grant, or are just some kind of research results enough? And are they eligible if they don't have a company open, or do they need to have a company open already for receiving the grants?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Okay, I first answered the last one. Actually, we try to help them start in a company, so they shouldn't have a company when they participate in the innovation lab. If they already have a company, let's say they are already at the next stage, so we do not support them with the innovation labs. Then what we have now, because this has started only the last year, so I cannot have, I do not have much statistics, but I can tell you that the last year, and because it was a pilot project, we got a few people to get into the funding process, even if they didn't have a prototype or a proof of concept. Okay, and at that time we were providing on average, let's say between 25 and 30,000 euros as pre-seed money, but we learned that it's too much. And so now, well, let me rephrase it. It's too much when it comes to digital technologies, okay? Because actually, for digital technologies, of course, if you want to scale, you need some investment, right? But to have a first prototype and even, you know, first MVPs, it doesn't need a huge investment most of the time. So now from this year, we are giving up to 10,000 euros per team. And
sorry, can I interrupt you just a second? When you say digital tech, do you mean mostly software, or do you also mean some hardware related spin-offs or inventions of sorts?
It's mostly software.
Okay, thanks.
And yeah, for hardware, we don't have. So what we try to do with the Digital Innovation Lab is to have software that can be used for different uses. So it can be, you know, digital health. It can be, you know, some, let's say, tourist platform that works on a digital platform or anything. Okay, so that we can actually have a very open and multidisciplinary approach to this, so we can get people from all disciplines at the university to propose their ideas. And this year we are also starting the Biomedical Innovation Lab, where by biomedical we mean anything that is biotech or pharma or medical devices. And in that case, because also of the nature of the biomedical industry, but also because sometimes it needs more development, we are providing up to 40,000. And this funding lasts for 6 to 9 months, the 40,000, and then we support them to actually get public funding to further develop their idea or their spin-offs. For the digital case, it's only up to 4 months. It's very intense. And also, you know, the target group is slightly different. For the digital one, we have mostly, let me call them youngsters. So we aim at master students and doctoral candidates as core group. Of course, also bachelor students or postdocs or more experienced researchers are welcome, but the core group is master and PhD candidates. For the biomedical, it's totally different. We aim at having more experienced researchers. So either PhD candidates finishing their PhD or postdocs or early stage like tenure track professors. Why is that? Because while for software it's a bit trickier to protect intellectual property because it's not patentable, in the biomedical case the patent is key to any successful innovation. So we allow people to participate only if they have something that either has been patented or is on the way to be patented.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Maria Lessig has a question. Maria, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. I want to ask about the patents. How many patents do your office have that are active? And in which countries do you mostly file your patents?
Should I answer that? So about the exact number of patents that we have, I honestly don't know. We have a good number of patents.
You can give approximate number.
If you don't mind, I will check and I will tell you, because we have so many old cases that we still keep the patents because these are licensed to companies, or and you know, we have. I will explain you why I'm not so sure about the number. So the thing is that when we file a patent, we file an European patent.
Okay.
And then during the first year, we try to get some feedback from companies and to see if things are moving forward. And then in that case, before the end of the priority year, we file a PCT application. I don't know how familiar you are with patents, but this PCT is a patent cooperation treaty. It's kind of an international patent that will never get granted. It only has a duration of 18 months, but covers most of the countries worldwide. So at the end of these 18 months, so from the beginning, we do it 1 year after filing the initial patent. So from the first filing, we have 30 months, 2 years and a half. Then during this time, we really try to get it commercialized. Because otherwise the next step, once this PCT application expires, is to enter the national phase. So we need to decide if we continue with the patent in Europe, US, Canada, China, Japan. So this is an extremely expensive step, because we will need to pay fees before every office. Patent, also the filing fees, examination fees, patent attorney fees, and not only that, also translation fees, and we will need to pay for every office action. So this is the patent will go through the examination process in each patent office. So we will need to pay for all the related costs. So it's extremely expensive. So if we initiate the national phase, we do it because we already have a company on board paying for patent costs. Not only because of the cost, that's a very important point, but also because the company, you know, they really have a say about where to continue with patent protection, considering where they are located and also their competitors. So if we are talking about a company in Europe, but they also have competitors in the US and Canada, then of course they would like to have patent protection in Europe, US and Canada, and so on. So I don't know how many patent families we have. I will check it, because actually this is a question that we get quite often, and I could tell you my guess, but that wouldn't be okay. So that's something that I will need to check. But yeah, I guess that every year we file around, I don't know, 6, 7 patents, but maybe some of these patents are PCTs, or they are kind of continuation of a patent that we already filed 1 year ago.
Okay.
This patent process that I just tried to explain was clear enough, or should I?
For me, it was clear.
Okay.
For me, it was clear, but you didn't answer in which country do you have active patents? What is like top 5 countries that you really have active patents?
So in Europe, this is the first patent that we file. And then if after this international
country.
But European, it covers all the countries in Europe.
So you go to the national phase in Europe and then?
No, the first patent is a European patent.
Okay.
So it covers not only all the European countries, but also some associated countries.
But okay, I thought that you should, of course you apply for the European patent, but after that you need to file patent in each national phase.
Yes.
Until you have this a Unity patent, which will came in this summer,
Yes.
1993. So before that, now at this moment, we need to file in each country, like Germany, Austria, France. You apply for the European Patent Office, but then you decide in which you will pay the fees, national fees.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm right.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. The patent goes through the examination process in Europe,
Yes,
before the European Patent Office. And once the patent is granted, then is when you have to decide in which countries you want to continue with patent protection.
yes.
Then
So that's my question. In which
and
country you are having active patents?
Exactly, since that happens after the PCT filing, so like more than 2 years after the initial filing, that's something that we only do if a company is already having a license to that technology. So if the company is located in Austria and also wants to have more countries covered, that's what we do. Because otherwise it's also very expensive to continue with patent costs before all these European patent offices in all the countries. I don't know if.
Okay.
But yeah, once it's granted, then you have to decide the countries that you were very right. And then, but since this is something that we do when we have a company, then the company decides where to continue. But usually, of course, Austria, and then the main territories are France, Germany, maybe Italy, Spain, Greece, Denmark. Yeah. So.
Okay. And I have I just to say once again, did I understand right? So the company is paying fees to each country where it wants to patent your technology. So that is the cost of the company that is using your technology.
Exactly. Okay. So once we enter into a license agreement with a company, from that moment on, they have to take care of all the patent costs.
Okay. And one more question about the spin-off. When the researcher wants to make a spin-off, who is the co-owner? How you share the co-ownership with the researcher? Is that a university owner, some part the researcher, and how that goes in the practice?
That's a very good question. So the University of Vienna, we decided not to take any shares in the companies, so that the founders are the only owners. And the only thing that we have in place with them is an agreement for let's say a licensing agreement for the intellectual property. And also that usually goes with, of course, we have to be careful with the state aid law, right? Because we cannot give it for free. But of course, we try to give them, good conditions so that it's easier for them to be successful. And this is a decision not to take equity is a decision that we took also upon very practical issues. The main point is that if the university owns part of a company, then whenever there is a decision, let's say of the shareholders, the university takes quite a long time to make the decision, right? So I'm just making making a very extreme example. If the company needs to buy a computer, then they need the Senate of the university to approve. And then everything is very slow. And this is something that, of course, investors don't like to see, right? So that's why we decided not to do that. There are some universities nowadays in Austria which are considering to take also equity. Only one university does it, which is the University of Innsbruck, but other universities are considering to do that. And in order to be more, let's say, practical and avoid the problems that I just mentioned, they usually found an external company that belongs to the university, and that company either comprises both the technology transfer and also this, let's say, spin-off property, or it can be only the spin-off property. But this is something that we don't plan to do, at least in the near future.
Yes, that's very good model, I think. That's very good model. But how you, okay, on the price, how you decide on the price of the licensing agreement? Or, you know, maybe I'm not not used to formal language, but you know what I mean. When you sell the license to the spin-off, your spin-off, from your faculty to your researcher, how do you decide on the price? Do you take some royalty, or do you have some fixed part, or how you do that?
Yes, actually, it is a very complex process.
I can imagine.
Because we have to take care of many different things. But yes, usually what we have is a royalty on sales.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what is the percentage?
Yeah, this percentage is not fixed. It changes depending on the industry where the spin-off operates. So let's say that, just making out some examples, right? So let's say that it's a spin-off in the pharma industry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then let's say the percentage might range between 5 and 15%. Okay. Let's say that it's in another industry where there are low margins. Okay, then maybe it's around 2 to 5%. It really depends. And actually, to understand what the usual royalty rates are for those industries, we make a bit of research. Okay, and based on that research, we offer, so we basically, let's say that we go into the pharma industry, we get a distribution of royalty rates, and usually we get some percentage that is in the lower quartile. And this is our proposal to the inventors. Then there are some annual fees to be paid. Depending, again, on the industry, there might be some milestones, associated to some fees that they have to pay or not. And plus, we ask them to refund all historic patent costs. But all of this actually doesn't start from the first day of the license. We give them some time, like 3 years, a kind of grace time of 3 years, so they can start their business, and then after that, pay to the university. And and all these conditions, of course, are then negotiated with the spin-offs. Okay, so that this is, we provide them with a first proposal, then we meet them, they give us a counter proposal, and then, you know, we negotiate a bit the terms. So it's quite a long process, and I would say that on average it might last around 2 to 3 months, depending also on how, let's say, responsive are the spin-off founders, because when they start their spin-offs, they still have the research going on, so all the research duties, and then they have all the other issues around the spin-off they have to take care of, and usually they are quite slow at responding to us. So that's why the process takes long.
Okay, can I have one more question? When that spin-off thing happened, and the researcher is also, for example, professor, do they quit their professor career, or they stay at some lower percentage of the professor career, or what are they doing? Because it's really hard to handle all of that.
Yes.
So from your experience, I just need the true stories.
I agree. Maybe you can tell them a bit of true stories, but I just tell you what we think about it in general, right? So in general, it's good to have the professors involved in the spin-off, but we prefer them to be involved as advisors. So still owning some shares, maybe that's fine, because maybe they've been the first ones to think of it, but we really push those professors to get their people, like their PhD, their postdocs, or someone else they are in contact with, to take care of the company. And this is important this is healthy for two reasons. First, that the professor keeps on doing research, okay, and is not too distracted by the spin-offs. Secondly, it guarantees new career opportunities to the young researchers, which is an issue, let's say, at entire European level, right? That nowadays academic careers are getting more and more difficult, right? So that you can give them this opportunity. And yeah, and third, that there are no conflict of interest too, because if a professor keeps on doing the research, but also owns a company, then how does he choose the research topics so that they are not favoring somehow the growth of the company, right? So there are all these issues that we prefer to avoid. And actually, if you ask all investors in technology companies, they all prefer to have professors as advisors, but not to be, let's say, majority shareholders or also even CEOs of the company. Okay, so this is the ideal case. But of course, when it comes to the practical thing, and there are some cases where some professors want to push a bit and to be more engaged with the spin-off and participate more into it. And I don't know if you have any examples.
No, I just wanted to add that actually that's usually what happens in practice, that the PIs doesn't have a managerial position at the spin-off companies. Is usually a postdoc or former PhD student who will end up being the CEO or CEO. And in any case, this is something that the PIs or the researchers have to discuss at the rectorate, depending on their contracts and so on. And it's not our decision. It's something that they will need to discuss with the rectorate. Yeah.
We just give them advice to go in the direction I just mentioned, but then we cannot enforce things.
Thank you for this very elaborate answer. I will give the floor to Sneža first, because my question is of a general nature, and I guess Sneža has to ask something of a more specific nature. Sneža, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Goga. So you said that you first go for this short 2 years patenting. Will you, if you estimate that some research has potential for patenting, will you patenting all, or you will first research market and potential for commercialization and then do patenting?
Yeah, that's actually what we do. Thank you for the question. It's really good question. So before we don't file patents directly, first we need to do some market research to see if there are really commercial opportunities for that technology. And also it's very important to perform this patentability check to see if it's really new, if it's inventive. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to initiate the patenting process. And since patent is an expensive process, we need to know that the researchers are going to be keep working on this and investing time on further developing the research. And usually it helps a lot to decide to go for a patent if we have a letter of intent from a company stating that they will be interested in a license to that technology, or if the researcher already states that they would like to create a spin-off company. But with all that information, then we evaluate the case and then decide whether or not we should file a patent. And once we do it, as I mentioned before, we start with the European patent. Then on the first anniversary, we file the PCT, which lasts another 18 months. So in total, we have 30 months to try to commercialize it. And this is the way in which it's cheaper to have patent protection in most of the territories worldwide.
Yes, but you rely on some background that there is actually, it's not just new, but it has some marketing price, actually, commercial price. Okay.
Yeah, some industrial applicability, some kind of industrial applicability that can be used or produced in any industry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Branislav asked.
Yeah, thank you. My question was regarding the coaching and then mentoring that you mentioned. Since you are a team of 8, it's not many people in your TTO. I was wondering, do you have some kind of external experts that you collaborate with, that collaborate with the inventors, or do you guys do it internally?
Yes, so it all starts internally. So we provide, let's say, general mentoring, because most of the times there are even, let me call it very basic things that they don't know for obvious reasons, because they have not been trained to do business, right? And so that's internal. But of course, in some cases, we put them in touch with the right experts, and those right experts can be either people coming from, with investment background, who have been, for example, we have one who has invested a lot in biotech, right? And then that person is the right person to mentor them through, for example, developing a business model for biotech, which is something we are not very expert of. And similar for digital technologies, whenever we can find some experts in our network, and we are always kind of growing this network. So whenever I meet new people with different expertise, the first thing I ask them is if they are available to mentor our spin-offs, right? So yes, we have both, but it all starts internally, and then depending on the needs, we outsource to external mentors. And the external mentors, then it's their own arrangement with the spin-off founders. Of, let's say, how often they would like to be mentored, right? And then if at some point it also might entail that the mentor itself becomes an advisor of the company, maybe get some shares. This is all up to them. We are not included in that in this negotiation. We just open the channel and facilitate these initial contacts.
Thank you.
Actually, you now partially answered my question, because in your presentation, you talked a bit about the communication, which is a two-way street, you to the innovation community and vice versa. So who is more likely to approach whom? That's my first question. And should we activate and take a proactive approach and reach out to the innovation community by organizing open doors or some open sessions where we display and showcase the research we do and attract them, either in a focused way or generally? What would you advise us to start off with?
Yeah, I think that there's no, let's say, a silver bullet for that. So we do both, actually. Okay, we do both, and also we know that it takes time. Okay, it's not something that you build from one day to the other, but actually, because it's mostly a kind of establishing a relationship and keeping this relationship open, right, and maybe growing it. It takes a lot of time, meetings that can be either one-on-one or, as you said, organize an event. IMA right now is organizing a large event to attract pharma companies, and then also those, right? So we are going to attract them not only because of the spin-offs, but also because of contract research they might be interested to do with our researchers. So it's like both focuses, and yeah, you have to go both ways, actually.
Yeah, and I would like to add something else, that also that, it's important to be in contact with the researchers. So when there is we have a newsletter, for instance, but when we know about a call for funding, for a prototype funding or proof of concept funding, then we approach them. We send them emails to inform them about the call, because even if they don't apply, they know that we are here, that this is our role to support them. And then when they need us, they will come to us, because we don't have the time to go scouting for technologies. but it's important that they are aware of us, of our activities, our role, and they know that we are here and they can come to us when they need it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I thought so. Do we need to mention that are we confined to 3 p.m. as you previously announced?
Unfortunately,
Yeah, unfortunately.
I forgot to say when we started. Yeah, yes, that's I timed completely wrongly things on my calendar, so that at 3 we actually have another meeting and we have to leave the call.
Yeah,
yes.
It's fine. So I'm really encouraging colleagues to go ahead with a question or maybe two, but brief ones, just to get the final touches of today's webinar. So are there any questions? Please go ahead. We have the speakers only for 4 minutes more with us.
Okay.
Okay, our colleague Vladan from University of Belgrade has a question. Vladan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. If I have understood right, the researchers have a sort of obligation to report on all innovations to you. I imagine it's quite a large number, and also the process regarding the patent application is really expensive. My question is, out of the submitted innovations, what is the percentage of them that receive your further support for the commercialization process? Do you have any? I guess you have any.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So usually, as I said at the beginning, we have around 25, 30 new technologies per year. Out of them, maybe we decide to file a patent on about, I don't know, like 6, 7 technologies, not all of them, but also because in some cases, it's not possible to file a patent application, but it's possible to commercialize the know-how. And it also applies to software, for instance. Software is not, usually is not protected with a patent protection, it's copyright. However, we try to commercialize it, and also some spin-offs are created based on this software. So maybe we could say that out of all the technologies that we receive, we try to commercialize half of them, let's say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your questions.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have to leave, but I will send the presentations where you find also our contacts.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you so much. It was really great. And yeah, you will receive some questions for sure. Thank you for your time, and have a
Pleasure.
nice day. Yeah, keep in touch. Thank you.